Hello, Legend of the Samurai here with an Assa Twin Exclusive. This is the upgraded version of the older Twin 6000, the primary difference being the keyway. They switched to this 851 keyway, which has that undercut there on the side, which can make it a lot more difficult to get picks into position. You have to use very thin stuff to sort of bend around it, but in a lot of the locks, and even ones with fairly extreme bidding, you can actually just pick these off the warding for the top pins with a shallow hook. So, set up, tension clockwise, and this is all barrel drivers with matched countermilling, so light tension, get everything up to the milling. And then you just go through looking for that tiny little bit of counter rotation. There we are. So that's the top pins dealt with. And I know that because of how far I went into the false set, and I know that the sidebar isolates in this lock. So now I'll be going in with a side pin pick. It just gets under the sides. And I'll start at the back, and I know both 4 and 5 want to bind at the exact same time. So I'm using a trick. I'm backing off tension as you have to float pick these side pins. I've lifted up pin 5 by half a gate. And then I've reapplied tension, so it is now binding on the spot between gates. And now if I come up to 4, I can push that past into its gate, go back to 5, click up, and it should fall into its gate. And then if I just tap a little bit back and forth between them, I can get them both to go. Whereas if I just tried to do one and then the other, floating back and forth, I would be ping-ponging for quite a while. So I'll come back to 3. All right, that's 3, nice and springy. Move up to 1. Just 1 is a number 1 cut very low, so I just have to tap it, and I go into a nice false set, and now I just have to float 2 out. And we are open. Oh, there we are. Lock that back up. And then we can take this apart. So I will be taking drivers out the top because they use these nice sliding covers. All right, there's all of our top pins. Take off the tailpiece. Keep a thumb on that sidebar. And here is our sidebar. So that is, come on, a 14322. See how those side pins would line up with the true gates. And then these are the standard 6000 style side pins with one deep gate and several false gates around it. Alright, so here's our plug. That's where side pins go, sidebar, and here we have top pins. We have that nice barrel counter milling in all of the chambers. 2 sharp cuts to snag on the ends of those barrel drivers. And those go all the way around. There is one of these anti-drill rods to note if you're gutting through the plug, so make sure you try not to drop drivers in there, although the barrels shouldn't actually be able to snag in a hole that size, so lower risk than if this were with gins. And then there's our keyway, that nice undercut profile. And the housing has the sidebar groove on one side, and everything else is pretty standard. Alright, close up on these. Again, we have normal key pins, although with these newer style locks, they're slightly domed at the top compared to the very flat ones in older locks. And then these are the newer Assa security drivers, the barrel spools. And they are pretty sharp at the bottom, and they catch pretty nicely on that countermilling. Not to the point where you can actually hold the plug up with it, but they still catch hard enough to be a problem. And so here is the key. It doesn't really look like I should have been able to pick this with this hook. But if we look, this is where the warding would fit. And this hook, it doesn't look like it should actually reach under there. So, you know, maybe you can get under it like that. But here, it looks like I shouldn't be able to do that, but you have to remember that the key is smaller than the keyway in order to fit. So you actually have slightly more room than just comparing this straight to the key. So there is just enough room to get this hook under here, and because there is slightly further, the pivot point that you're picking off of at the front of the keyway is slightly further down than that, there is just enough reach on this hook to set that lift after the shallow pin in 3. So a lot of these can be picked with a shallow hook. You do need to find the right profile to do it, but you don't necessarily have to be bending 15 thousandths of an inch thick picks to try and get around that warding. All right, this is an Assa Twin Exclusive, picked and gutted. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.